we are stepping up the level of our services. Our goal is to treat your loved ones with the respect they deserve. We are taking our services to new heights. We are stepping in a new direction. Step into the new millennium with Golden Gate Funeral, where service begins and never ends.
Hello and welcome to Ask the Undertaker, an open, honest look into funeral service brought to you by Golden Gate Funeral Home and Crematory. I'm your host, John Beckwith Jr., and I'm joined today by the pastor, A. Lewis Eaton of the Church of Living God, Temple 280.
Blessings on you.
We have our chief funeral director, Mr. Kevin Haynes.
Hello, everyone.
We have our sister, our chief financial officer and partner, Miss Carolyn Haynes.
Hello, everybody.
We have the pastor, M.T. Body Jr. of the St. John Baptist Church of Hillsboro, Texas.
Praise the Lord, everyone.
All right, today we come from Luke, the 7th chapter, and the 12th verse. Pastor Eaton, read that for us.
The word of God says, "Now when he came nigh to the gates of the city, behold, there was a man dead carried out, the only son of his mother, and she was a widow, and much people of the city was with her."
All right, today we're going to talk about pallbearers. Carolyn, when I think of that word, pallbearer, I heard Pastor Eaton read that the body was carried out. So that's what we think of when we think of pallbearers. Is that correct?
That we do, and that's just modern day terminology for it. Pallbearers originated back in ancient Rome through the church. And it was originally, John, just a cloth. It had nothing to do with the actual person, the actual casket. It was just a cloth that actually covered the casket, and that's where it originally came from.
So the cloth that covered the casket, Kevin, was called the pall. Those who made sure the pall did not fall off was called pallbearers. They did not lift the casket, but somehow we got those two combined. What did we combine it with?
We combine that with casket barriers.
Okay.
And they're the ones that actually, carry the load, so they actually have a hold to the casket. Whereas those pallbearers actually, I saw it when I was, young, that the actual pallbearers were, you might see 10 people, but 4 of them were holding a cord on each corner, which actually kept that pall from blowing off.
So, Dr. Eaton, we have misled people over the years. We have mixed the pall as well as the casket, brought it all together and called it the pallbearers. Mm-hmm. But that's how time is. When a story continue to get told, it gets a little mixed up there.
Add to it.
Now, when you think of pallbearers, what come to your mind, Pastor?
Well, it comes to my mind of 6 or 8 men carrying a casket from one location to another.
And Pastor Body, time has changed the meaning of pallbearers. Mm-hmm. We don't get that confused. If you say pallbearers now, we're not thinking of a pall.
No, sir.
We're thinking of the casket,
Right.
and we think about those who actually carry the casket.
Yes, sir, we are. And we've learned through our experience that nowadays called pallbearers are the one who actually take care of the casket. They attend to the casket while they're carrying it from the hearse to the grave or from out of the church to the hearse. Those are the ones who take charge of the casket when we get ready to leave and go deposit the loved ones.
And Carolyn, that's our pallbearers.
That's it.
So let's go a little bit back in history. Let's talk about why did this pall even exist? Why was this thing called a pall? Why was this cloth over a casket?
Well, like I stated first, John, it was done by the church. And it was first done to show the clothing for baptism. It was just showing these people now have passed away and they're going on to their reward. So they used the pall as a symbol of baptism. And secondly, then they would turn around and they would say, well, okay, we will have this over the casket so that it shows no respect of persons. God looks at this pall as this is my son, my daughter on their way home. You didn't put it on certain people, they put it on everybody.
And Chief, it hid the casket.
Yes.
It didn't matter if I paid $100 for the casket or if I paid $100,000 for the casket. It had no respect of person.
Yes, it did not matter whether if it was the old-time cloth-covered wood or if it was a solid mahogany.
It covered everybody.
It covered everybody.
And Pastor Body, isn't that nice to know that it had no respect of person? I really like that when I think of the Paul and what it stood for.
Yes, sir. The Bible says that our Lord and Savior has no respect of person. And if the Paul represents how he looks upon us, it is a good thing for the Paul to be there, because it shows that in the eyesight of God, we are all equal.
Dr. Eaton, quite often, we don't use a Paul very often in the Christian church. We still see it in the Catholic. But at the National Cemetery, for veteran services, we use a flag to cover the casket. It has no respect of person.
No respect of person, and regardless of what type casket it is, the flag covers it.
It covers it.
It covers it.
And if I served in different branches, Chief, it doesn't matter. If I was a Marine, I was Navy, if I was Army, it had no respect of even branches.
That's right. Each of those would receive a United States flag to cover that casket. And as far as even coming down a little further to our professionals that are in law enforcement and in firefighters, specifically in Texas, a police officer in Texas, his casket is covered with the Texas flag. And for firefighters, depending on how the fire department is set up, if it's the city, like the city of Dallas uses the city of Dallas flag as a pall, and quite commonly they'll use a black pall to cover the police vehicle or the fire truck that that they were accustomed to using during their service.
That is good to know, Carol. So the Paul has played its part and have continued to play its part in history as well as in present day. So let's get back to this pallbearer. As we know, Pastor Body, when you're asked to be a pallbearer, is that an honorary thing?
It's very honorable.
Okay.
You should take it as an honor and a privilege to be selected to be a pallbearer at someone's homegoing service. That shows that the family cared enough about you as well as your relationship with the deceased. So whenever you're asked to be a pallbearer, you should take it up on it that I'm honored. I would be honored to accept the role as a pallbearer for your loved one.
Honored. Would you be honored to be considered as a pallbearer, Pastor Eaton?
Yes, it's a very honorable thing when a family cares that much about you to ask you, would you carry my loved one to their final resting place?
Chief, you think that's the equivalent to a groomsman at a wedding?
It is. If the person thought enough of you, to call on you to carry out that task, yes.
Carolyn, why do we not see many women pallbearers? I won't say none, because I have been on services where women have served as pallbearers, but traditionally, we don't see women pallbearers.
And generally, John, that's because of the weight of the casket as well as your loved one. We in this society, we have men that carry out the duties that we consider to be heavy duty loads that need to be done, things that need to be done. So generally, you will not see a woman carrying a casket. If they feel that much about you and honor you enough, you may very well be still placed in a position in the service, but you won't be an active pallbearer.
Pastor Body, many different types of pallbearers. We have active pallbearers, those who actually carry the casket. We have honorary pallbearers who are just listed out of respect of their relationship to the person, as well as we have a SWAT team of elite pallbearers.
Yes, sir.
Many different pallbearers here. Help me out a little bit about this active pallbearer. Carolyn said men usually carry the load. They carry the weight, so normally you don't see a woman that's carrying a casket. What does it take to be an active pallbearer?
Well, first of all, you have to be physically able to carry a heavy load.
Okay.
You need to make sure that your schedule allows you to be able to attend the funeral. When the family calls on you, need to get all information you can, where, when, and what time the service is going to be. You need to make sure that you are able to fulfill that obligation that has been asked of you to do.
Pastor Eaton, you get the call. I'm not physically fit enough to do this. I appreciate the honor, but
you should tell the family, whoever asked you to be a pallbearer, that you're not able to be one. I would love to do it, but health reasons or other things might hinder me from being there.
Can I then become an honorary pallbearer?
Yes, and that's the next step in line.
Okay. So tell me the difference between this active pallbearer and this honorary. What is an honorary pallbearer?
An honorary pallbearer is one that's really close to the deceased.
Okay.
And they are either of age that they can't do any lifting, or they are disabled that they can't do any lifting. So the family still recognize them being a close friend to the loved one.
Chief, help me out. Emotionally, I may be physically able to carry a major load. I can handle normal situations, but emotionally, this is a very difficult time. This is my brother. It's just too emotional for me to be a pallbearer. This is my mother. Perhaps I shouldn't be a pallbearer in this situation.
That's exactly right. If you're not emotionally stable to handle the task, because your mind has to tell your body to physically act. And so if you're not able to, then you should, consider, taking on the task of being an honorary.
Carolyn, as a funeral director, and I know this person has accepted the role to be an active pallbearers, sometimes we have to say, we need to replace you at this moment because you have shown us either physically you're unable or you have shown us that you are emotionally unable. Should we trust the funeral director to make those adjustments if necessary?
Most definitely. And we ask the pallbearers if they are not a part of any procession that we may have had to the church, that you announce who you are when you arrive at the location for the service. Let the funeral director know, I am a pallbearer, and let them assess the situation and give you some instructions prior to you getting ready to leave that church to carry that casket.
Pastor Body, we try to be consistent at Golden Gate Funeral Home.
Yes, sir.
We give instructions at Golden Gate Funeral Home to our pallbearers. First thing we tell them is to line up in a certain area so we can say these are pallbearers. They are recognized by the family. So normally pallbearers do not sit with the family.
Right.
We want them recognized by the entire church as well as the family.
Right.
Where do we normally sit the pallbearers?
Normally here in the city of Dallas, we sit them on the front left-hand side.
Okay.
The opposite side of the immediate family. And we'll walk them in behind the ministers in front of the family so that they would know that these gentlemen are the pallbearers. And once we walk them in, we take them to where they're supposed to be seated and direct them there.
Now, what about Tarrant County? I know you mentioned Dallas.
Well, Tarrant County, they're seated on the far right-hand side, the opposite side again of the immediate family.
So normally, pallbearers are set up front.
Up front.
Just like the family is set up front, whether they're on the right side, left side, regardless where they are, they're always up front.
Yes, sir.
With the family to be recognized as pallbearers. Now, Chief, we give them a few more instructions. When they get to the point where they have to lift this casket at the church to take this casket to the hearse, how important is it that they live together? So often, this is not something we practice at home.
Yes.
It's not something we normally do. They have to listen to the instructions of the funeral director.
Yes, and it's very important that at that moment that they are comfortable. And so we ask them, to place their hands on the casket, and if they need to make some adjustments, if they need to switch sides with another gentleman, then to do so at that time. And then once everybody has a firm grip on the casket, then we can all lift together and proceed outside of the church.
What happens if we don't live together?
Well,
and that's not something we want to ever happen. That's not something we should take for granted.
Yes.
Quite often we'll find ourselves as pallbearers walking out and we just ended up on the wrong side. I can't live with my left. I'm a lot more comfortable with my right. We should give them the opportunity to switch if they need to. At the cemetery, Pastor Eaton, we carry the casket very far sometimes.
Yes, sir.
What's some of the instructions that are given to the pallbearers at the cemetery?
Well, first thing we ask them to do is line up in front of the casket at the pallbearers. We open the door, line up the way they would like to carry the casket.
And that's important.
And
because if I line up on the wrong side, once again,
that weakness could be in that right or left arm, so you need to know which side your strength is.
Pastor Body, what if I have on jewelry?
Oh, please, we ask that you take those off.
Okay.
Because sometimes the hand is, and with the ring on it, is not large enough to fit between the handle and the casket. And it could cause some excruciating pain, and your hand could get stuck off in there. So we ask them, if you have any jewelry on, gentlemen, will you please remove it and place it in your pocket?
Because if you get stuck, and we placing this casket on a grave,
yes,
you might not want to go down there with it. But also, jewelry could scratch the casket.
Right.
There's some more instructions given. Help me out, Chief.
Yes, we asked them to, as we're pulling the casket out of the hearse, to pass it to the next gentleman in front of them until everyone has a good tight hold onto the casket.
And that's not something we can take for granted.
No, sir.
Because we have to move very slowly.
Yes.
If you rush this situation and someone's with the wrong hand, someone
Yes.
has on jury, need to remove it, we could find ourselves, Carolyn, in a
Bad
very
situation.
bad situation.
Situation.
How important is it, Pastor Body, that we hold that load for them as film directors? And before we put that load on them, what do we say to them?
We let them know that we're now fixing to take our hands off of it.
Okay.
So they are allowed to feel the weight of the casket and the loved one that they're going to carry. But we also make sure that they're very comfortable, and we allow them time to switch to the sides that they need to be on, and then we begin to move real slowly and take our time. We never
So
rush.
before we let go, we say,
We're about to let go.
we say that to the
Yes.
pallbearers because they need to know here comes,
The weight.
His weight.
Carolyn, it's called a pallbearer. Therefore, you must bear.
That weight.
Chief, when they're walking, you don't want to kick the person's foot in front of you.
No.
If you cause him to fall, if you cause him to trip, everyone falls.
Yes, each of those gentlemen will need to have proper spacing, and that needs to be established before you take off, because it's quite common. Some of the taller gentlemen, their steps are longer, so they very well could step on the heels of those that are in front of them.
In the military, they'll say left, right, left, and that's for stepping purposes.
Right.
So you should step together. If I'm stepping forward with my left, everybody needs to be stepping forward with their left.
With their left.
If I'm stepping with my right, everyone's supposed to be stepping
With their right.
With their right. Now, Pastor Bob, that seems like a lot. Many people are watching this show right now, so I've never heard that before. I've worked as a pallbearer before. That much comes with it.
Yes, sir.
Now, that took care of my honorary and my active. What about this SWAT team, this stepping with an anointed touch? Those who carry the casket on their shoulders and march to a beat. This becomes very difficult. How much training does that require?
Well, Brother John, we thank God that at Golden Gate we have the SWAT team, our elite pallbearers, and we train every week at 6:30 a.m.
6:30 a.m. So somebody may be watching Pastor Biden. They want to be a member of this SWAT team. They've seen it on television. They've seen it on YouTube. They've been to a funeral service. You have to be dedicated to be a member of this SWAT team.
Yes, sir. Dedicated, committed, and sincere.
Okay.
About the work of this ministry that the SWAT team is a part of. 6:30 a.m. every Saturday morning. You, along with the SWAT team, we practice very hard. The singers that sing must be able to sing, and sometimes have to sing and carry the casket
At the same time?
At the same time, on our shoulders. And so it's a very, very, very tedious, strenuous
Okay.
practice.
Carolyn, it's a ministry.
Yes, it is.
If this is what you want to be a part of, you're going to have to train. We are trusting you with the most precious cargo you can ever
Carry.
bear or
Yes, sir.
carry.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And then, John, the look on the families' faces when they do ask us for these elite pallbearers, our SWAT team, they are so happy. They are so grateful that their loved one was able to have this final celebration, and everyone really loves it. So please call us, and you're allowed. You can even come to our meetings on Saturday morning. He even has the whole staff there at 6:30 on Saturday morning now. So you can come and you can see us actually train, actually practice, and how serious John is and the rest of the staff is about our SWAT team.
We've found some very awkward situations, Chief.
Yes.
Stairs at churches.
Yes.
Most of them was not designed for pallbearers. They did not keep in mind that they might have a funeral service here, and you're going to have to walk down these stairs with this casket. We have some very interesting situations where the doors are too small and the stairs are just too steep or too tight between the rails. That sometime we have found ourselves in some very interesting situations. How important is it to have someone that's trained to handle that casket?
It's very important to have someone trained to handle that casket. That's why the Steppers with the Anointed Touch is probably one of the safest group of people that you could have in that situation. If you have any doubts about your active pallbearers, then you should go with our service, our elite pallbearers, because they are trained and they know how to adjust in certain situations.
Can I pre-need this SWAT team? Can I pre-need professional pallbearers, Pastor Eaton?
Yes, sir. And that's the blessed part about the pre-need. You can put in there whatever you choose to have.
Pastor Body, I'm not trusting my family. I love them, but they don't practice enough as being pallbearers. I'm not trusting them with Dad. I'm not trusting them with me or anybody else that I personally know. I need the SWAT team,
Yes,
and I
sir.
want that on my pre-need. I can pre-need it, was what I was told.
Yes, sir.
So is that one of the reasons pre-need is so important to everybody?
Yes, it is. One of the things about a pre-need is your wishes.
Okay.
It's what you want. If you want the Golden Gate SWAT team stepping with anointed touch, call Golden Gate Funeral Home, get your pre-need, and ask that you tell them no, you want SWAT on your service. They're professionally trained. It adds extra level of dignity and honor to your loved one's homegoing service. It just adds something. I guess you'd say it adds the flavor to it.
Carolyn, if I don't want it, that's very important to the pre-need as well.
Most definitely, John, as he stated about your wishes, your family needs to know exactly what you want and exactly what you don't want. Someone in your family may want the SWAT team. They like the way that they perform the services for your loved one, but you never wanted that. You decided that's not something I want on my homegoing celebration. But you must tell your family. Don't ever let them have regrets about what they did and shouldn't have done, or something that they did not do. Also in that pre-need, it allows you to pay it out. You budget your entire life, your family's life. You're able to budget that SWAT team in your pre-need, as opposed to an at-need funeral. You need to pay it before the services begin.
Financially, it makes sense.
Yes, sir.
I can pay for special pallbearers. I can pay for special caskets. I can decide what I want, don't want, as far as my wishes.
Exactly.
But there's another reason why we pre-need. Help me out, Chief.
Well, emotionally,
Okay.
it just makes sense. That way you don't have to leave that decision up to your family members. If you want it, make sure it's in writing.
It's almost selfish to make your family come out at the worst day of their lives and have to make decisions for you. We're going to offer you so many things as a funeral home, as funeral directors. We're going to offer you the world. And they're going to have to make a decision financially, emotionally, as well as what do you want done, that you should have already made that decision
Yes, sir.
for them. Pre-need, but we also talk about insurance. Why does everyone need insurance, Pastor Eaton?
Well, you leaving an inheritance for your family. And it's when you done so much for them while you was here, when you leave here, it'd be good to have something set aside so your family can continue to live in the manner in which they were living, or
Pastor
better.
Body, I see so many commercials now about these insurance companies. I mean, they name, I can just go on and on and on. Leave something for your family. We can insure you regardless of your health, your age. It's affordable, term life, whole life. There are so many companies out there offering insurance. Insurance is important. Listen to those commercials. They're just backing up what Undertaker's been saying every week.
Yes, sir.
Their only mistake they make, at the end, they may say use it for funeral purposes.
Well, we don't recommend that you use your insurance, your family's inheritance, for funeral purposes. That's why we ask that you get a pre-need. But if you have to have insurance, get a substantial amount that not only will it cover your funeral expenses, but it will also leave some money behind for your bills to be paid, your rent to keep being paid, your car note to be paid, your family can still eat. And even you may want to send little Johnny to college, and you may have a college fund. You need to have some money to put up into that. So that's why we ask if you just have to have it for funeral purposes, at least have it enough to where you can pay for your funeral service as well as your family can continue to live on.
Carolyn, wrong beneficiary?
We see it way too often, John, still. We still see even minor beneficiaries. We ask that you do not put your minor child on that policy. They cannot contract. They can't even use the money that you left for them. The state of Texas has put some things in place to protect them. We're asking you to protect them and put an adult that you trust, and then put some things in place to protect your minor children.
Chief, what happens if we can't find this policy?
You can't use anything that you can't find.
Okay. Tell somebody.
Yes.
Put it where?
Please tell them where you put it. If it's in a lockbox, make sure that they have the key If it's in a safe deposit box, make sure that they know which bank. They just need to know exactly where it is so that they can get to it.
Carolyn the Wheel. Quite often we hear court orders. We hear probate court.
Right.
We hear, I'm going to sue you. I'm upset. I'm never speaking to you again because of death. Help us with this will.
And will is very simple. You can write it out in your own handwriting. We ask that you get it witnessed, get it notarized. Let your family know exactly what you're leaving to each person. But make sure you put this in the hands of someone that you trust. It doesn't matter what your family's opinion is of it. You put it in the hands that you trust, and you list everything that needs to go where it needs to go. So there's minimum court time and monies wasted on your probate.
Pre-need, insurance, and a will. We say those three things every week because we see this and experience it every day.
Right.
Chief, a casket can weigh 80 pounds all the way up to 400 pounds before we ever put anybody in it. Pallbearers are very important. I heard you say, if you want to be safe, go ahead and purchase the pallbearers from Golden Gate Funeral Home.
That's exactly right, because again, they are trained specifically to handle that task. It's a minimal fee. Right now, it's $1,350. If in order to have that for certain, just go ahead and put that on your pre-need, and that way it's taken care of.
How much is a peace of mind worth, Carol?
Priceless. You cannot buy a peace of mind. And we're giving you all of these ideas and information so that you have a peace of mind, and so does your family at the time that they need to plan your homegoing service.
And remember to watch Ask the Undertaker every Saturday night right here on channel 47.2 at 7 o'clock p.m. and every Sunday morning at 6 o'clock a.m. on channel 21. And you all know my favorite.
The radio show.
The radio show is every Saturday morning from 10 to 11 o'clock a.m. And that's on Heaven 97. That's 970 a.m. on your dial. And of course, you can watch us on the internet and listen to us on the internet at khvnam.com if you're unable to tune in. But Carolyn, we're available 24 hours a day.
Yes, sir, we are.
GoldenGateFuneralHome.com. If you can't get enough of us, you can watch us 24 hours a day. YouTube, that's the number one thing out there now, isn't it, Chief?
Yes.
Everything.
Ask the Undertaker, Golden Gate Funeral Home. We have our own YouTube channel. May God bless you and may God keep you is our prayer.
We are stepping up the level of our services. Our goal is to treat your loved ones with the respect they deserve. We are taking our services to new heights. We are stepping in a new direction. Step into the new millennium with Golden Gate Funeral. Where service begins,